Released in 1980 and directed by Italian filmmaker Ruggero Deodato, Cannibal Holocaust is often considered one of the most controversial films in cinema history. Its graphic depictions of violence, both fictional and real, pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable in film and sparked a firestorm of outrage across the globe. To this day, it remains a notorious entry in the horror and exploitation genre. Despite its reputation, or perhaps because of it, Cannibal Holocaust is a film that invites discussion, not just about its artistic merits, but also about the ethical implications of filmmaking itself. The film is structured as a found footage narrative, a technique that was groundbreaking at the time and later became popular in films like The Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity. The story follows a group of American documentary filmmakers who venture into the Amazon rainforest to capture footage of indigenous tribes, rumored to engage in cannibalistic rituals. After the filmmakers go missing, anthropologist Harold Monroe is sent on a rescue mission to find them. What he uncovers is their footage, which reveals the horrifying fate of the filmmakers and the brutal events that led to their deaths. The second half of the film is presented through this recovered footage, showing not only the gruesome fate of the filmmakers, but also how they themselves provoked much of the violence through their own brutal and exploitative behavior. This shift in narrative focus challenges the viewer to reconsider the notions of victim and perpetrator, raising complex questions about ethnocentrism, the ethics of documentary filmmaking, and the sensationalism of media. Shot in a found footage style, the film has a gritty realism that contributes to its unsettling tone. The use of handheld cameras and degraded film stock adds a layer of authenticity to the footage, making the events feel disturbingly real. The lush, forbidding jungle becomes a character in its own right, a place where civilization's moral compass is lost, and the line between human and animal behavior becomes blurred. The film's soundtrack, composed by Riz Ortolani, adds a striking contrast to the visuals. At times, the music is hauntingly beautiful, creating a dissonance that underscores the horror on screen. This juxtaposition between serene music and violent imagery enhances the film's emotional impact, disorienting the viewer and making the brutality even more shocking. The controversy surrounding Cannibal Holocaust began almost immediately after its release. Upon its premiere in Italy, authorities seized the film, and Deodato was arrested on charges of obscenity. He was later accused of making a snuff film, a genuine depiction of real murders on screen, due to the film's hyper-realistic special effects and the fact that the actors portraying the filmmakers had disappeared from the public eye following production. The director had to provide evidence in court, including bringing the actors to testify, to prove that they were still alive and that the deaths depicted in the film were staged. This notoriety was compounded by the film's graphic depiction of animal cruelty, which is tragically real. Several animals, including a turtle, a pig, and a monkey, are killed on camera in explicit detail. These scenes, more than the human violence, have made Cannibal Holocaust a lightning rod for criticism. The ethical lines crossed in the name of artistic expression are difficult to justify, even for the most ardent defenders of the film's thematic depth. Deodato himself later expressed regret for the inclusion of the animal deaths, though the damage to the film's reputation had long since been done. The film was subsequently banned in multiple countries, including the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. It was added to the UK's infamous Video Nasties list, a collection of films deemed too obscene or violent for public consumption. This status not only increased its notoriety, but also cemented Cannibal Holocaust as a symbol of cinematic transgression. Over time, the bans were lifted in some countries, often with heavily edited versions being made available. But its legacy as a censored and condemned film has lingered. Cannibal Holocaust is a critique of media sensationalism and Western exploitation of indigenous cultures. The filmmakers within the story treat the tribes they encounter as objects to be manipulated for the sake of a compelling narrative, staging scenes of violence and destruction to shock their future audience. In this way, Deodato seems to be making a broader statement about how media dehumanizes and objectifies marginalized groups, turning their suffering into a spectacle for profit. However, the film's message is compromised by its own reliance on extreme, sensational imagery. The critique of exploitation becomes a form of exploitation itself, as Cannibal Holocaust indulges in the very violence and voyeurism it ostensibly condemns. This paradox has led to widespread debate about whether the film is a legitimate social commentary or just another piece of exploitation cinema masquerading as something deeper. The boundaries between critique and complicity are constantly blurred, forcing the viewer to grapple with their own complicity in watching the film. Despite, or perhaps because of, its many controversies, Cannibal Holocaust has gained a significant cult following over the years. Some critics have come to see it as an audacious piece of transgressive cinema that raises important questions about the nature of violence, both real and depicted. Others maintain that its ethical shortcomings, particularly the real animal deaths, render it irredeemable. Its influence on the horror genre is undeniable, particularly in the found footage subgenre. Films like The Blair Witch Project owe a debt to Deodato's pioneering use of lost footage as a narrative device. Additionally, the film's unflinching portrayal of human savagery and media manipulation has inspired filmmakers to explore similar themes in different ways, from Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers to more recent works like Green Inferno, Eli Roth's homage to the cannibal genre. However, the film's legacy will always be stained by the ethical transgressions it committed during production. The real harm inflicted on animals and the exploitation of indigenous cultures for shock value are not easily brushed aside. While the film has found defenders, its place in the annals of cinema history remains contentious. Cannibal Holocaust is a difficult film to watch, and an even more difficult film to ethically evaluate. On one hand, it is a bold and unsettling critique of media sensationalism and Western exploitation. On the other hand, it is a film that crosses ethical boundaries in ways that are deeply troubling. Its use of real animal cruelty, combined with its hyper-realistic portrayal of human violence, makes it a deeply uncomfortable viewing experience, one that raises important questions about the responsibilities of filmmakers and the complicity of audiences. For those interested in the history of controversial cinema, Cannibal Holocaust is a film that demands to be confronted, not ignored. However, it's not a film that can, or should, be viewed lightly. It occupies a precarious place in film history, both as a work of undeniable influence and as a stark reminder of the ethical pitfalls that can accompany artistic ambition.